Good morning everyone and welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands, South Africa. I'm Brent, I've got Romeo on camera with me.
Morning.
And then I've got Scott and Veerm on the other vehicle. I'm very excited to be back. We've actually started off following some leopard tracks, so that's quite exciting. Hopefully we get some luck with them. The track's headed into the drainage line behind me. So we're just checking the roads around here, and then if we don't get any luck, we'll go back to last tracks and start working again. Hopefully I hear that the cats have been prolific while I've been away, and hopefully we can keep it going. So welcome on Drive, and for those of you who are new, we are live by a few seconds. So from wherever you are in the world, you're watching us right here in the Djuma Private Game Reserve in South Africa. And let's get going and find some animals. So even in the last week or so I've been away, you can see how much drier the bush is. Even though I was told we did have a little bit of rain. There's definitely a nip in the air, and you can see the colours all around us changing. All the bush willows are starting to turn. It's more sort of yellow than green at the moment. Good morning, Di from Ohio. Welcome on Drive. Thank you very much for welcoming me back. Di would like to know whether I was able to, did I see or film any of the cheetah? I did, but probably not the same ones you guys were looking at. I went and spent a few days on the reserve where my parents live, and we saw 2 male cheetah while I was there, but definitely not the same ones the same one that you guys saw. Lots of hellos. Thank you very much, guys. Good to be back. Delaray would like to know what I got up to on my leave. Well, I went to the little town of Hoedspruit where I live, which is not far from here. I had some friends come down and visit me from Johannesburg, so we spent quite a lot of time on game drives. And then I went up to Johannesburg to go see some other friends and have a few meetings. But other than that, very peaceful, calm, nothing too exciting. So as the bush gets drier, it is going to make it a bit easier for us to find the cats. Tracking becomes easier as there's more dust on the roads. And also, as the grass dries out and dies down, we're going to have quite a lot more visibility, which always makes things easier to spot. And also the dependence on the remaining water sources. And have congregations of ellies and and whatnot. So everything becomes a little bit easier during the winter months or the dry season months. But the one terrible thing that does happen for me personally is it gets cold, and I'm the world's biggest softie when it comes to the cold. For those of you new, you'll notice that I turn off the engine and I try freewheel as much as possible. And the reason I do that is to listen, because you've got to use all your senses out in the bush, and hearing when it comes to finding a lot of the predators is one of the most important. Because if a predator is spotted by most of the animals out here, from squirrels to tiny little wax balls, to your big animals, your pala, your kudu, nyala, they will all alarm call and tell everyone. They'll shout, leopard, leopard, or lion, lion, just to let you know where everything is. So it's always good to just try and listen out. And even though we do have very quiet vehicles, if we turn off and we freewheel, you just have that little bit more you can hear. Virtual starting in the road. Hey guys, we're going to cross across to Scott quickly, so you can say good morning and you can see what he has. And hopefully by the time you come back, we might have found a leopard or two. So over to Scott.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome on board with myself and VM. What a beautiful sunrise we're experiencing here in the Lowveld. And so good to have Brent back, as I'm sure a lot of you have noticed and are also happy about. And already we were chatting around the fire last night, sharing some tales, him filling myself in on his leave and myself and Mark filling him in on what's been going on here. So he's excited to be back, and he's already following tracks of a leopard, so it hasn't taken him long, and he's definitely very hungry to find one. So let's hope that he gets lucky. Myself and VM have headed onto our northern boundary, and we are driving down in the hope that we are going to find some lion tracks. Now, there's nothing to say that they will be here, but the only way of trying to get a chance of seeing them would be to drive down this road and find their tracks. They have been hanging out to the left of the road, to the north of us, over the last week or so, and if they were to enter our property, it would in all likelihood be from left to right over this road. So that is what we are hoping for, but we'll be happy to bump into anything along the way. As a lot of you will know, we never know what to expect out here, and for any of you who may be joining for the first time, welcome on board. And I will warn you in advance if you are a newcomer, we often have plans to look for a certain animal, and while we're looking for that animal, we bump into something else that we weren't expecting to find. So that could certainly happen this morning. It's quite cool and crisp, which is great. It means that hopefully, if there are any predators around, they'll be more prone to move into the later hours of the morning than if it was to be hot. Well, thinking back to yesterday's drive, we got really spoiled, and for those of you who were tuned in, I hope you really enjoyed it. I know a lot of you got some incredibly good screenshots, so well done on those, and it's certainly keeping myself on my toes, because you guys are outperforming me with your screenshots, and I'm here with the camera, so it's good to have a bit of healthy competition with you guys. So far we've only seen tracks of hyena on the road, and they do cover huge distances in search of potential food. Now, they can acquire their food either by stealing it, which is what they're more notorious for, but what is less known about hyena, or less well publicized, is that they are also efficient hunters, so they could well have also been catching food for themselves. So mainly hyena tracks up till this point, and nothing else of too much interest. And just as I was mentioning how some of you are getting some great screenshots, Nikki's already sent me through a message now saying there's some great shots of the sunrise, so well done. In the early part of the drive, as we start up, it's quite dark at the moment, and that means it's a little bit more tricky to see tracks until there's actually sunlight shining on the tracks, ideally from a low angle. It becomes very difficult to see them as the flat light that we currently have now, because the sun is yet to peak up properly. It means we just have to drive a little bit more slowly to ensure that we don't miss any tracks. and I'm going to stop shortly to show you exactly what is going on with the sun, because it is quite something. Beautiful. So it's behind a thin bank of clouds, and therefore we're not experiencing its full power at the moment, but what we are experiencing is an incredibly beautiful scene. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the clouds over the course of the day. We've been having a lot of clouds rolling in through the days, but yesterday, for example, we had a lot of cloud cover in the morning, but by the afternoon it had all blown over, and whatever small chances there were of rain had dissipated greatly, and it really would be wonderful to get some rain. I don't think today is going to be the day though, judging by the clouds around, but as a lot of you would have probably established, my weather predicting skills are not great, so often I am proved wrong after giving you my thoughts on what the weather's going to do. Again, for any newcomers, if you would like to ask questions to myself or Brent at any stage, please feel free to send in your question to questions@wildearth.tv on email, or to hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Those are the two mediums which you can send questions through to us, and Nikki in the final control will do her best to filter through all the emails and questions and get them through to us. Blessings. Every time I drive through this riverbed that we're going through now, I think of Mvula. The very first time I saw Mvula, he was lying up just at the base of this tambuti tree, and that would have been in either the very last parts of November or early December last year. And it is something that most guides will experience once you have had any kind of major sighting in a certain area. Every time you drive past that area, you look hoping that the animal will be there again. Very seldom happens though. Excuse me. And great to think how over the months we have accumulated some incredible sightings of the various animals that we see frequently here, Mvula being one of them. And after my first sighting in November or December last year, up until yesterday's sighting of him, I think yesterday's was certainly my most memorable. There was some wonderful golden afternoon sunlights on him, and he really was on the move up and down, which makes for great viewing. Well, just to let you know, I'm in the far north of the property and Brent is in the far south, so we've split up in order to try and cover as much territory as possible. And it sounds like he's arriving somewhere interesting, so we're going to cut across to him and see if he can find anything at the dam where he's arriving now. It's always a good place to potentially find something. Oh.
Welcome back, guys. Fortunately, we had no luck with those tracks. They went into the drainage line. They were quite old. They're from early last night, so decided we're going to have a squiz around, see if I make sure I haven't forgotten all the roads and don't get lost. And we're at Treehouse Dam now, and oh sorry, Robert, can you zoom back up on that that guy on top there. So a question for you guys: I'd like to know what bird that is and what makes it quite interesting compared to the other members of its family. So what bird is that and what makes it quite interesting compared to the other members of its family? And send your answers to questions@WildEarthTV or just use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. So we'll stay on it for a few seconds. And let's see who's awake this morning. Let's see who's awake this morning. Okay. Good morning, Andrew. Can you confirm, is it breeding Klambi? Okay, copy. Thanks, Andrew. I'm around Treehouse Dam. I'm going to be heading down Elephant Skull towards that position. So we had an answer from Alex, Grey Parrot. It'd be a very lost grey parrot and probably escaped from someone's house if it was, but on the right track in terms of the interesting piece of information that sets it apart from the rest of its family. You guys are so close. Is it Laura, Susie, all on Twitter? Brown-headed parrot, green parrot. Okay, I'm going to give you a little hint. It's not a parrot. And now for the interesting thing about it that sets it apart from the rest of its families, or the other birds in its family. Morning. How are you in for? Yeah. What, Ingrid? Yeah, I'm sure. He's gone behind the dam somewhere. I'll go look a bit later. So Boulere also said it was a green pigeon. Well done. Okay, guys, I'm gonna give you a few more minutes to figure out what the interesting thing about a green pigeon is that sets it aside from the other members of the pigeon and dove family. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to tell you. And I got some messages while I was on leave saying you guys were ready for trivia when I got back. Okay, so I'll wait till I tell you till I get to Twin Dams Road. So times are running out, guys.
Everyone's on Google now.
I know, everyone's on Google. Who's got the fastest fingers? And who can sift through and find the right information? Heather from Alaska, good morning and welcome on drive. Heather says they've got little tiny yellow leg warmers. I'm afraid you're in the right area, but it's a little bit lower than the legs. Okay, we've got an answer. Well done, Judy. Judy says it hangs upside down, so now you guys are getting much, much warmer. But, just sorry, 1 second, guys. Standing by. Copy, thanks very much, Andrew. I'm going to be there in 2 minutes. I'm on Twin Dams Road. Okay, so guys, there's lots of fresh elephant dung on the road, and Andrew just called me and said there's some elephants drinking, so we're going to shoot up ahead. But the answer is the feet. They have zygodactyl feet, which means they have 2 facing forward and 2 facing back, unlike most birds, which does enable them to hang upside down. So their feet are very similar to parrots in that sense. So a lot of you are on the right track with parrots, but in terms of the feet. So because they feed on a lot of fruit like figs and that, they need to be able to be more maneuverable around the branch than most birds. Oh, there we go. This is going to be... Let's go on the opposite side. Oh no, don't go away from the water, guys. It's more coming now, looks like. Oh, it looks like a nice big bull at the back there. Morning, elephants. So we're just going to stand by next to the water here. There's still, it looks like a few on the other side of the dam wall, including a bull. And hopefully they move towards us. If they don't, I'll just shoot around and go find them again. That's nice soft morning light on him. Those of you hear a few clicks, not to worry, it's just my camera. He's in no hurry. He's taking his sweet time this morning. Hear all the blacksmith lapwings calling. Good morning, Ramona from Missouri. Ramona would like to know if there's a special meaning when an elephant drapes his trunk over his tusk. I don't think so, Ramona. I think he's probably just resting it, or fiddling. Oh, it doesn't look like he wants to drink. Looks like he's more interested in chasing the ladies. I'm going to move around so we can get to the other side. Or maybe he'll come around. Let's just wait couple more seconds, see if he does come around to the water or carries on after the girls. You can hear the others feeding off to the east. And he's going to go straight after the girls. Morning, Elizabeth on Twitter. Elizabeth would like to know how old more or less the bull is. Well, we'll have a closer look at him now, and then I'll explain that through to you. Looks like it's going to drop into the drainage line, so shall we. Sand's getting thicker. Oh, if it gets drier, let's try a different angle. Okay, so you can't see the bull, he's behind, and I don't want to move too much and make too much noise trying to get up in the sand. So I'm sure they'll move out towards us rather than us moving towards them, which is always better. Rather let the animals come into your space than force yourself on their space. But from the brief view I saw, it's probably around between 25 and 30, but I'll have a better look when he comes out into the open. Good morning, Bob from Iowa. Welcome on Drive with us this morning. Bob would like to know whether elephant bulls have territories like male leopards or lions. No, Bob, they don't. They have home ranges that they wander in, and elephant bulls will often stay together, and the only time they really compete is when they're in must and there's a female in estrus. Other than that, they tolerate each other and actually spend quite a lot of time with each other, and quite often spend a lot of time away from the breeding herds of females. It's just too much noise and commotion a lot of the time around the females. So the reason this bull might be following is that there's one of these females is about to come into estrus or just ended estrus. But I don't think he wouldn't quite be the dominant bull around this area, just judging from his age. So he would sort of hang around on the peripheries, whereas the older, sort of bigger bulls would do most of the mating. It can be incredibly frustrating for a male elephant. And they reach sexual maturity between 12 and 15 years old, and often they only get to mate when they're about 30, when they're big enough to compete with the older animals. Good morning, Kathy from Memphis. Welcome on Drive with us this morning. Kathy would like to know, why do elephants stick out their ears? Is it a sign of aggression? I'm presuming, Kathy, you're not talking about the way these guys' ears are operating at the moment, the flapping. What they're doing at the moment when they stick out their ears is a cooling system. It's their air conditioning system. They can have up to 8 liters of blood in their ears, and because the ears are so thin and the blood is very close to the surface, when they flap, the wind cools that blood, and so it transports cool blood back into the system, and the warm blood from the body comes back out. But when they do raise their ears and raise their heads, when they're giving us a warning or whatnot, it can be a sign of aggression, and they do it to make themselves look bigger and more imposing, which you would think an elephant is as big and as imposing as it needs to be. Oh, let's go off to the left here, having a scratch, having a good rub against the bank there, an itchy bum. That could be for a few reasons. Most of your large herbivores have a species of botfly that the larval stage actually stays inside the sort of last section of the sorry, one second, just turn the radio down. The last section of the intestinal system, and very interesting little larvae. They actually got little hooks that they attach themselves onto the wall of the intestine, and as they get older and they move closer towards the anus, they can be a little bit irritating to the animals. To the right. The youngsters sort of having a game trying to climb up the steep bank. That's quite a good climb for a little elephant there. Good morning, Pam. Pam would like to know, do elephants sleep standing up? The bigger bulls and older cows do sometimes, but the younger animals do lie down on their sides. The problem is, as they get older and they get bigger and heavier, it's difficult for them to stand up. But I have seen an enormous elephant bull sleeping on his side, but he used the termite mound, so he wasn't flat on the ground, so it was easier for him to stand up. He's actually snoring. It was one of the strangest things I've ever seen in my life. We're going to go have a look. We're going to have a look at the bull. See what he's up to. So apparently there's a bit of confusion about what I said a little bit earlier. It's called a bot fly, B-O-T, bot fly. But it does live in the butt, so butt fly larva could also work. So it looks like he's dug a hole in the sand rather than drinking the muddy dam water. He's come and dug a hole for fresh water here. So he didn't like the muddy water. It looks like he's just finished drinking now. Might have another drink. Throwing some sand on himself. So to answer the question about his age, let's say he's probably between 25 and 30. So he's still got a little bit of growing to do. It's amazing how dexterous their trunks are. Testing the air, smelling, giving us a little smell. Hope Romeo had a shower this morning.
First one in weeks.
With most animals, but especially elephants, how you move around them dictates how they behave to you. So you always want to keep your engine revs low, move slowly, and you never, with all animals, you never, oh, the cats can be a bit different, you know, especially with elephants, you never want to drive directly at them. You'd always prefer to drive across the face of them. It's sort of non-threatening behavior. Good morning, Sarah from South Carolina. Sarah would like to know, do botflies make the animals sick? Not so much. They're sort of just intestinal parasites that feed off the fecal matter. They don't really make them too ill. And with an animal like an elephant that doesn't actually digest the majority of its food, it's not too much of a problem. obviously you can get them in huge numbers, and especially in domestic animals like cattle and that, then they can become a problem. But with elephant and rhino and buffalo and things like that, they're not too much of a problem. Good morning, Virginia from Kentucky. Virginia would like to know what illnesses do elephants get? Virginia, I'm not actually 100% sure on all the illnesses that elephants get. The one thing I know that does trouble them in some of the more arid parts of Africa, and in particular the Chobe region of Botswana, is they're quite often killed by anthrax spores, especially during the dry season. They'll manage to kick up and inhale anthrax. And in the Kruger, actually, it's quite a common killer of elephants and buffalo and things like that. Although strange enough, the lions and hyenas seem to eat off those carcasses and don't seem to have any adverse effects. But I'll take out my mammal Bible and have a quick look and see if I can find any others. That's what you call lazy feeding. It's rest your tusks on a dead tree and then just eat. Oops, my earpiece fell out. Well, it looks like he wants to come this way, so I'm just gonna, oh, he might go around us. Ah, no, he's fine. He might give us a little head shake as he walks past us. He's going to be feeling particularly big now that he's on a slightly higher ground. So he's just letting us know that he's bigger than us. And as you can see, he's no threat. He's looking for something to eat. Like he's pulling a little rhesus creeper out of the grass there. There we go. So when an elephant's this close to us, and he is very close, it's probably about 3 meters, the worst thing you can do now is to start and move your vehicle, because he'll start feeling a bit threatened. So, and he's on a high ground above us. Let's see. So if we moved now, we would probably upset him. So it's much better, as I said earlier, we rather let the animals come into our space. They move into our space. We don't move into their space. As you can see, no aggression, just ambled past us. Oh, let me get back to those elephant diseases. Reproduction, distribution, description, taxonomic notes. Trip down the steep hill there. Yeah, let me. He's going back to the water. I'll just sit now. Well, I mean, I can still see him there. Yeah, man, there's a lot of questions coming through about the trunk and how they breathe when they put all that sand in their trunk. Well, there's a very, very intricate network of hairs inside the trunk, and that's what filters out the sand. And also they do just blow out really hard. And I mean, I'm sure you've heard or seen, either with us or online, elephants trumpeting. So that's a huge blast of air that will clear out all that sand and stuff like that. And when it comes to breathing, they breathe like most things. Breathe in and then out. What's he up to now? So you can still hear the other elephants off to the east of us feeding in the thickets. Okay, let me get back and let's try to find some, if there's anything on disease in here. Guys, I'll be back with you in a second. I'm just trying to read through this mountain of information quickly to see if I can find anything on disease. Well, I can't actually find anything in my book about disease in elephants. And the only thing I know that's not really a disease, it's more that inhaling of spores, is anthrax. I'm sure there must be some diseases that maybe elephants just don't get diseases that commonly. I'll have to have a proper look when I get back to camp. Good morning, Claire from New York. Claire would like to know whether the wrinkles in the elephants help with temperature regulation. Claire, I personally haven't heard that before. And I personally don't think so. Because if you look at different types of different elephants, all have different amount of wrinkles. I mean, maybe it would make a difference on a small scale, but I think on a large scale, I don't think it really makes that big a difference. And if you look at like forest elephants, don't have as many wrinkles, but they live in a much warmer climate, and it's much more hot and humid there all the time. So I don't know. I personally don't think so. I think maybe on a very small scale it might have an effect, keeping a little bit of moisture or whatnot in there, and then with the evaporation and wind might make a small difference, like when we sweat. But I don't think it would be a major temperature controlling or even temperature control aid. Good morning, Cindy from Tennessee. Cindy would like to know whether I think this is a right or left tusker. I actually haven't looked quite. There we go. Now he's going to show us nicely. I think he's going to confuse us all, and he's going to be an tusker. It does look like he uses both tusks, and doesn't seem to favor one. I'm just going to have a closer look, see if there's a little bit more wear on the ends of one than the other. So the right, now we just need a picture of the left so I can zoom in and have a look. Looks maybe like he has a slight preference for the left tusk, but very slight.
Please watch your head.
Oh, sorry. So what we're looking for, Cindy, can you zoom in on the tusks there, Romeo, please? It's right on the edge. You'll start seeing sort of a sharp edge wearing or whatnot, and that looks pretty nice and round, the right tusk. And we'll wait till we get a better look at the left tusk. Get all that dust off there. Until we get a good view, I don't want to bomb around him too much. He's nice and relaxed. We don't want to unrelax him just so we can see his left tusk. There we go. What we'll do is we'll pop around him so you can have a look at his left tusk. Have a look. There you go. Looks like it's a slightly more wear on the left tusk, but very, very slight. You can see it's a little bit sharper, but he looks like he might be an ambi-tusker, just to confuse us all. Good morning, Norman from Detroit. Norman would like to know, how is an elephant's vision? Well, Norman, historically, they thought the vision was quite poor, but it isn't. It's reasonably good. Obviously, all their senses are quite good. Their hearing, the smell, their eyes. But that's the savanna elephants. I definitely noticed that forest elephants, the vision isn't that good, and that could be from living in a very dark environment majority of the time. They rely much more on their hearing and their smell than on their sight. But I don't think elephant eyesight's bad at all. It is quite good for an animal compared to some of the other larger mammals like rhino, whose eyesight is quite bad. And that could be because they need to feed off fruit and stuff like that, and maybe seeing what's ripe or whatnot. Although I don't know, they should be able to smell that. But I've just heard in my ear, Scott's got something quite interesting. So while he does, we're going to cut across to Scott quickly and see what he's got.
Welcome back, and we've been having a quiet morning up until now, and this is something that I've yet to see or share with any of you. It appears these brown-headed parrots have a nest in this beautiful big leadwood tree, and there were 3 floating around, so possibly a pair of adults with their youngsters. And I'm just going to open my book to look into their nesting habits, because I don't know too much about them. So not too much info in my book, but they are monogamous, so in all likelihood a husband and wife essentially. And I'm guessing it could be a chick from this year's breeding season, because there were 3 of them around. And as those of you will know that follow the show more closely, we don't get to see these brown-headed parrots very often. It's mainly their calls that we hear. And wonderful to know that this is their nest, and we got you just in time, because if it is indeed their nest, it appears that they like to leave at around this time in the morning. So they've maybe had a lazy start to the day and have probably been sitting on this beautiful dead tree, absorbing the rays from the sun to warm up. And definitely worth keeping track of, and next time we are on this road, we'll definitely know now to have a look for them here. It's interesting because myself and VM drove down this very road yesterday afternoon and didn't see anything in this tree, yet now that we've come at a slightly different time, we've learned something quite interesting. So, great to hear. Has it got a kill?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna... Oh, should I creep forward or stay here? I think we can stay here, wildebeest, because it's jumping around. And VM just spotted a yellow-billed hornbill, which appears to have a kill. Oh, look at that. It's a chameleon, is it? No, it's a katydid. I thought it was a chameleon, but it's a large insect. It's a praying mantis. It looks like. I thought it was another insect called a katydid, but that's a big praying mantis that it is about to gobble up. It looks like it's just making sure it's dead before it swallows it. Interesting that it's taking chances flying around with its kill, because it could be stolen from it by another bird. And it's often that you only see them flying around with kills when they're transporting them to their nest sites. Well spotted there, VM. Great to hear that you've been having an enjoyable morning with Brent and the elephants. VM, there's also just a tree squirrel in this buffalo thorn at kind of 1 o'clock, eating the berries from this tree. If you just zoom in, I'll guide you to it. If you go up a bit more. Where is it hiding? Down a bit. It's right kind of in the center of the shot there now. There we go. So we can see a little tree squirrel feeding on the fruits of this buffalo thorn. And they are quite tasty. Even as humans, if you're desperate, you can chew on these fruits, and they've got almost a sugary coating, you could say. I'm going to see if we can creep up a little bit closer.
Nice, that's squirrel, yeah.
Oh, even better. There's another squirrel even closer by in another buffalo thorn tree, evidently doing the same business, looking for the berries. And this is a great example now of having stopped in one area to look at a certain animal, and by being stopped you slowly start to realize that there is so much going on around you that unless you are stopped, though, it's difficult to take note of all of these small animals going about their daily business. I am going to continue to creep forward though, because the one on the right is in a better position, I think, in terms of the sun. Yeah, the one on the right's good, yeah. Well, spoiled for choice, there's squirrels on either side of the road. VM's just panning across now to the one on the right, which seems to be a little bit more active and has got better sunlight. Look at that. Beautiful. And let's see what it does with this little seed. I'm interested to see whether it's just going to eat that sugary coating that I described to you, or if it'll eat the whole seed itself. It appears to be, yep, it's just the sugary coating it's looking for, and it's important to understand, and as you look closely at the thorns in this tree, there's an assortment of straight thorns and hooked thorns, and incredible how this little animal manages to maneuver through the vegetation without getting snagged. They're not the only animals to feed on these fruits. It was just a few days ago that we saw a grey go-away bird also hopping around one of these buffalo thorn trees feeding on the fruits. We've just got a question through from Dia in Miami. Good morning, Dia, and welcome on board. Dia's done some research on the brown-headed parrots that we've just been looking at, and she realized that she has, or that there are also, what have you got there, Vim? Some Franklin. Mongoose. Awesome, look at this. I can't see them, but VM can, so I'm just having a look at them in the monitor. So there's a lot going on here. These look like little dwarf mongoose. Are they dwarf or are they banded? I can't see clearly enough. They They do look like dwarf mongoose. There they go. One of the smallest little carnivores we get out here, and actually throughout Africa they're one of the smallest. So they, unlike the squirrel, will probably not be feeding on the berries. You do get some carnivores that will occasionally feed on berries, but I'm not sure what they are foraging about for exactly there. They're maybe also just starting their day. Back to Dia's question though. Dia's done some research on the parrots and has established that there's a parrot called a Senegal parrot, which is very closely related to the brown-headed parrot, and Dia was interested to know whether we get the Senegal parrot here. Sadly we don't. It's just the brown-hooded that we see in this area of the Sabi Sands, or of the Kruger rather, predominantly, and there are a few other species that we do see, the grey-headed and the Mayer's parrot. So there's 3 in total that we can see in this general area, but let me show you in my book the other 3 that we get. Or the other 2 that we get, but they're further up to the north of the Kruger Park, so it's only the brown-headed we see here. And to be honest here, I didn't even know that there was a Senegal parrot, so that's my honest answer about the Senegal parrot. But very interesting that they are very closely related, even though Senegal is very far away from here, and I'm guessing they are predominantly found around Senegal. Good. Now I can hear a tree squirrel alarm calling ahead of us. It doesn't sound extremely intent, but let's carry on and see what we can find. Really enjoyed seeing that squirrel though, and it's an animal we see very often, but is sometimes difficult to show you because they don't always hang around, and because they are small we have to be quite close to them to get good shots for you. So that was a wonderful opportunity. Sorry Graham, I'm not putting in a very good spot here. There is something that is frustrating these squirrels. Now the problem is, as I just mentioned a little bit earlier, they could be alarming at a multitude of different carnivores. Go ahead, Brent. In the Mulwati on Gowrie Main, just come off Leadwood Road.
That's a bit of prey.
Well done, wildebeest. So, VM has spotted exactly what it is that they're alarm calling at, and I was looking on the ground hoping for it to be a leopard, but VM thankfully had a different idea, and he's found the bird of prey. And it's a beautiful bird of prey that's got a very distinctive stance and also a very distinctive head shape. So it sits very vertically upright, and it's got a large bulbous head along with a bright yellow eye that you may be able to see if it does turn its head towards us. There we go, that's probably a little bit better. Now, I'm going to leave this one up to you guys to identify, so please send through your thoughts as to what it may be. A great example though of how animals like squirrels can lead you to interesting animals that you could ordinarily drive past if you weren't tuned into the fact that there was some potential danger in the area. And the danger this morning is coming in the form of an eagle. should be a great view. There is something about this specific eagle and its stare that really is captivating. And you can see it's extremely focused at the moment. It is swiveling its head around from side to side, so potentially looking for some prey. And you may have heard some loud screeching. That was a parrot flying past. Go with the first one, please. Go again with the first one. Okay, so far we've got fish eagle and bataleur as two potential answers. Now sadly those are incorrect. The closest of the two probably would have been bataleur though. Fish eagles are more similar, or quite similar to a bald eagle, I guess. They've got a white chest and brown body, and even a juvenile fish eagle would have considerable amounts of white on it. That's affirmative. Well done. So Nikki in final control has managed to get it right. So now she knows what the correct answer is, which is useful because obviously now she knows all of the correct answers that come through. She can feed through to me. Now it's certainly worth us hanging around here, because hopefully we'll be able to see it hunting. So Judy in California and Suzanne in the Netherlands, the two of you have got it right, so well done, and I can now put everyone out of their misery. It's a brown snake eagle, and as its name suggests, it hunts predominantly snakes, but also lizards and other reptiles. But it is predominantly snakes that it feeds on, which is an incredible thought, especially considering the area that we work in here is high in venomous snake populations. So there's a lot of highly venomous snakes that this bird will prey on. Anne in Durban is another one that got it right. Well done, Anne. Now as I was saying, it is worth us spending time here. The chance of seeing it catching something is very small, but the only way of increasing that small likelihood is by hanging around and watching them. Wouldn't it be incredible to see it catching a snake? And I often think of a lot of birds of prey, a lot of different eagles, and how little is actually documented on their hunting. For obvious reasons, they're difficult animals to film, and if they fly off to make a kill even from here, we may not be in the right position to see it. But with technology these days, imagine if you could have a camera, a tiny camera on its back, and as it flies around, you could follow its daily business. Because they are incredible predators, and to watch them hunting or get a better insight into their hunting really would be phenomenal for us to see. I also find it hard to believe that they can feed predominantly on snakes. They will substitute their diet also with lizards and other animals, but you wonder how many snakes they're required to catch on a daily or weekly basis to sustain themselves. Now what I'm guessing it's going to do is it's going to sit in this tree for a while and try and scan around as much as it can. And if it appears that there's nothing for it to hunt in this immediate area, it may fly off to another tree where it will then perch itself and start scanning again. I think they do a lot of their hunting from a perch, because the prey that they're looking for is often going to be very difficult to find. So I doubt they do much surveying or hunting from the air. Maybe feed on a squirrel if they can't find any snakes. And yes and no. When I read up in the book, though, it says that they are, and I'm just going to double check exactly what it says in the book right now, but it says their food is mainly snakes, also lizards, water monitors, frogs, rodents, and insects. So I guess even though squirrels aren't rodents, they will fit into that bracket and could well feed on squirrels as well. And judging by the fact that the squirrels were alarm calling so intently at it, they must feel threatened by it, and that's for obvious reasons. It's probably not the first time they've seen a bird like this, and probably on numerous accounts it's tried to catch them. We've just got a question through from Lois in Buffalo. Good morning, Lois, and welcome on board. Lois is interested to know that when this bird does manage to catch a snake, will it swallow the entire snake, therefore the head including the venom? And yes, Lois, they often swallow the head first, so that'll be the first part of the snake that would go into the snake's stomach in all likelihood. And thankfully, the venom, because it's ingested, would not cause any problems. And that brings me to a good point and topic. People may often ask if snakes are poisonous, and no, they are not. The reason being is to differentiate between venom and poison. Poison, if ingested, will cause harm to you. So it's into your digestive system, not into your bloodstream. Venom, on the other hand, needs to be injected into your bloodstream for it to have its harmful effects. If it is swallowed, providing you don't have any massive cuts in your mouth, it would not cause any harm to the bird or even us as humans. So you can drink venom essentially with no problems, and it's also just a good way to know the difference between venom and poison. Snake kill. It was finishing off what looked to be a boom slung, and there was probably about 6 inches remaining of the tail of the boom slung, and the boom slung had somehow managed to wrap that last 6 inches around the snake eagle's head, and this prevented the snake eagle from being able to swallow that final little 6 inches of the tail. So that was quite a funny sighting to witness, because this poor snake eagle probably had 4 feet of snake in its stomach, and just the remaining 6 inches it couldn't get down.